What's going on, everybody? I'm Tank, and this is another episode of Roadie Reactions.
Get with this.
In this very first edition of Roadie Reactions Rewind, I thought what better place to start in my musical adventure than at the very beginning. So the song that we're going to be checking out today, honestly, is the first song I ever really remember hearing in my life as a very young kid. I've sat for hours trying to rack my brains, remembering like what songs did I hear when I was a kid, and this is the one that kept popping into my head, maybe when I was about 3 or 4 years old, probably more likely 4, somewhere around there, but I vividly remember listening to this song in my parents' house when I was a kid and absolutely loving it. And it's funny because this is not a band that I really followed years later into my life. I'm familiar with a lot of their music because they were a very popular band, but I don't know a ton about them. I know that they started in 1980 in Athens, Georgia by a bunch of musicians that were going to university together. And they were really one of the first alternative rock bands. And I've seen some interviews of other bands in the alternative scene that said they view this band as the pioneers of this genre. And I know that there's a lot of people that are hit and miss with this band. And like I said, I never really followed them a ton throughout the rest of their career. But I love this song, and there are quite a few other songs that I love as well. So what we're going to be listening to today came out in 1988 on their album Green, but the first time I remember hearing this song was around 1991, 1992, give or take. So I will link this original video in the description below, and today I'm going to be listening to R.E.M, and for the first time I'm going to be watching a live performance of their song Orange Crush. Let's go! Big festival. So as you can see, well, first I should say I really haven't listened to this song in years, and just that opening hit me with a flood of nostalgia and emotion of hearing this. That's wild, man. I've said this many times in this channel, but it is absolutely wonderful and magical what music can do. God, I honestly remember just like being a little kid sitting on the floor in my parents' house and my dad just cranking this on the stereo because he knew I liked it so much. And there were a lot of other songs around this same time that I also remember really liking, and we'll probably get to those in the future, but this is the one I remember most, man. I really do. Wow. So I see in the description that says this is at a festival called Tea in the Park in Scotland. I am not familiar with this festival, but it looks like your stereotypical open air festival in the UK. I mean, you've got your different countries' flags all over the place, loads of people. Let's keep going.
It's coming in fast over me.
stop and talk about a couple production things that I'm noticing. So this was 2008. Production is minimal, but still looks really cool. So being a festival, a lot of the lights and stuff that are in the air were probably a part of the festival package. They were listed as a headliner for this, so it's very possible that the video walls in the back are theirs, that they carried, that they had on their tour. I also saw that the other headliners this year, when I was kind of like looking on the background of this, was, I think it was Rage Against the Machine, The Verve, the Chemical Brothers, Kaiser Chiefs, and Prodigy. What a f***ing lineup, man. Dude, okay, so production stuff. The most blatantly obvious thing that's pretty interesting that he's doing is using that megaphone stepping back from the mic in those parts. And that's specifically for the effect. So rather than the front of house engineer running that effect through software in his console, the singer's just doing it there with a megaphone. And I've seen a lot of other people do that live too. Marilyn Manson does that a lot nowadays too. And if I had to guess, because of that, the front of house engineer is probably using an analog mixing console. It's nothing digital, because you should probably have the software in that to do that if it was a digital console. The other thing I just noticed is that the singer has both of his in-ears out right now. So he's got no monitors. Actually, I'm an idiot. I just noticed there's monitor wedges on stage. So one of those rare scenarios you see in-ears and monitor wedges on stage, but he took his in-ears out, so he must be liking the monitor mix more. If I'm not mistaken, I think I saw one of the bass cabinets over there turned around. So there's two Ampeg 810 classic cabinets, and then the SVT classic heads. One of them is pointed forward, the other one is pointed back. And what that probably is, usually when you see that, is the one facing forward to the stage is just for the bass player and the other musicians to hear it. And then the other one, since it's pointed back, is probably mic'd up, and that's what's getting the sound. And the bass player looks like he's using a Fender P bass, but the logo on the headstock didn't look right. That might be a custom that I'm not familiar with, and we'll get to some of the other stuff later. I want to keep listening to this.
It's coming in fast. Nobody
Looks like both those bass cabinets are pointed forward. Yes! Get that guy off stage. That guy's gonna be talking about that for years. I hate seeing people run on stage, but it's kind of funny at the same time. Now, the reason I say I hate it is because as crew guys on stage, we never know what people's intentions are. When we see somebody get on stage, we just expect the worst, man. Our artists are trying to perform songs. We don't want people on stage because, as you've seen happen, even with the best intentions, Randy from Lamb of God got in massive trouble, jail time, because a kid got on stage at one of their concerts. I think it was in Prague, if I'm not mistaken. Stage dove, got injured, and wound up dying. And Randy got charged with that. Anything can happen. I don't want to get dark here, but we've seen, the situation with Dimebag. Long story short, we expect the worst when people get on stage, and we don't like to see it for the most part. So if you ever go to a concert, please don't try and get on stage. One of the other guitars that I noticed was a Rickenbacker 360. That is an old school guitar, man. I have not seen many Rickenbackers on the road. The only time I've ever worked on a Rickenbacker was actually on a bass. It was on a 4001 model that the bass player for Lifehouse played when I was out with them. And they're cool. They're really cool sounding guitars and basses, man. I felt like there was something else I wanted to talk about. Yeah, probably not. Let's finish this off. Dude, that bass tone is so good. Dang, I saw a Texas flag flying in there. Man. Oh, that's wild. There are a couple things I remembered that I wanted to bring up, but we'll talk about that in a second. Let's go talk more about it. So as you could see, just hearing that song again for the first time in probably years and years, I mean, it put me right back to being a kid and hearing it. Like, I literally was having insane nostalgic flashbacks of sitting in my parents' house where I was like born and grew up the first few years of my life. And it's wild, man. It was super wild. You know, like I said in the intro, R.E.M. is not one of those bands that I followed a lot later in their career, even though I know a ton of their songs. They even had a song that was used in a sitcom that I watched as a kid with my dad that Chris Elliott was in. I know they used Stand was the song, but I can't remember what the name of the TV show was. I'll have to look that up. And then the one thing I wanted to bring up that I did find out later on in life is that Orange Crush is about Agent Orange, if nobody put that together. Agent Orange was a chemical that was made by Monsanto and Dow Chemical that was used by the U.S. Defense Department in the Vietnam War. And it makes sense because the guys in R.E.M. are known as being big-time activists, and Agent Orange was a huge, huge issue back then. But man, this was wild. Normally this is the part where I would say put your requests in the comments, but this series is about my musical journey. So I guess if there's anything you guys are curious about, maybe throw that in the comments. Do you want to see something that got me into a specific genre or something that meant a lot to me emotionally or something like that? Let me know in the comments, man, because I'm sure there's going to be a band or a song for every situation. So thank you guys for watching. I really hope you enjoyed this. And if you have any ideas on how I can improve or whatever, just drop it in the comments. And if this is your first time here and you enjoyed this, feel free to click subscribe. I release new videos all the time. So if you turn your alerts on, you might get notified when they come out, but you probably won't because YouTube doesn't really do notifications well. If you liked this video, I would greatly appreciate the like as it does help the channel. But if you disliked it, it's not a big deal, man. Thank you for watching this time. You are free to click dislike and move on. I'm also on a ton of different social media. I have a Discord server that I chat on with people all the time. I have a Twitch that I stream video games on and pretty much just rage half the time. If you guys are interested in those two things, I will put the links in the description below. My handle on everything is @TankTheTech. Thank you so much for watching. I will be back very soon with another episode of Roadie Reactions.